This is the AMYET S8 electric bike, and I picked it up because my daily ride has a couple of steep hills that turned my old single-motor fat-tire e-bike into a scooter I had to kick along. I wanted more torque, real suspension, and something that could handle mixed surfaces without feeling sketchy. After a month of commuting, grocery runs, and weekend trail detours, I've got a pretty solid feel for what this thing does well and where it asks for compromises. The S8 lands in that e-moped space where it looks more like a mini scrambler than a bicycle. It's not a lightweight folder you toss into the trunk. It's a big, chunky, full suspension rig with a long bench seat and 20x4 tires. Price to performance-wise, it sits in that sweet spot where you're paying for motors, battery, and brakes rather than fancy app features or boutique branding. It's for riders who care more about throttle control and stability than perfect pedaling efficiency. If you want something that climbs hard, cruises fast, and feels planted, that's the lane this bike lives in. Assembly was quick, but worth doing carefully. It arrived mostly put together, and I installed the front wheel, bars, pedals, and headlight, then took my time to seat the tire beads evenly and center the hydraulic calipers. The included tools work, but I used my own torque wrench on the axle nuts and stem bolts. Out of the box, my brakes needed a proper bed-in. After that, the stopping power felt confident, with a smooth lever pull and a predictable bite. I did a quick bleed after a week to get that one-finger feel, and it's been dialed since. On the street, the first twist of the throttle in dual motor mode is the moment that sold me. You get honest, shove-you-forward torque that makes short work of short lights and steep ramps. I keep it in single motor mode on flat stretches to stretch range, then tap dual when I'm merging or climbing. It's not just about speed, it's the way the front motor pulls while the rear pushes. On gravel and packed dirt, it tracks straight without that rear wheel squirm I used to fight. It still weighs a lot, so you're not flicking it through tight switchbacks. But for fast, stable cruising, it's confidence boosting. The suspension is soft in a good way for urban riding. Potholes, speed bumps, brick alleys, I roll over them instead of bracing for impact. The bench seat is comfortable and long enough for a friend, and the rear pegs do the job. Pedaling, though, is not the main event. The seat height is fixed, which means my leg extension is always a bit short. I do pedal to help on hills and to keep things moving at lower speeds, but I'm using the throttle most of the time. If you're expecting a traditional cycling posture, this isn't that. If you're okay with a relaxed upright position and using the drivetrain as a backup, it makes sense. Range depends on how you ride. With the big 48-volt 25 amp-hour pack, I get my longest days by staying mostly in single motor, cruising in the mid-20s, and backing off the throttle on climbs. That's my commute and some errands, no problem. If I run dual motors hard, pin it up hills, and carry a passenger, the battery drops fast. I also see voltage sag on steep grades. The display dips, then bounces back on flats, which is normal for big loads. I charge it overnight. The removable battery is convenient. I pop it off, bring it inside, and it's ready in the morning. The brakes are my favorite hardware on the bike. Hydraulic discs with a power cutoff give you that instant controlled stop you want on a heavy machine. They've held up through rain, plus a few emergency stops when a car decided the bike lane was a suggestion. Expect to replace pads more often if you're doing a lot of fast riding. For me, the trade-off is worth it. Lighting and controls feel thought through. The halo headlight makes me visible during the day, and the high beam is bright enough for night rides on unlit streets. The rear brake light and turn signals help a lot with drivers who aren't looking for bikes. The LCD is simple and easy to read, and the switch to toggle single dual motor is right by my thumb. There's a USB port near the phone mount. I've used it to keep my phone from dying during long navigations, and it works fine. A few quirks showed up. The plastic fenders rattled on rough roads until I added a washer and tightened the stays. My display had a tiny scuff from shipping that I decided I could live with. The wiring harness is fairly tidy, but I checked all the connectors and added a dab of dielectric grease to the motor plugs since I ride in wet weather. Maintenance-wise, I lube the chain weekly, keep the tires at about 22-25 psi for comfort without risking pinch flats, and spot check bolts monthly. It's more like caring for a small motorcycle than a road bike, and I'm okay with that. Compared to my older single-motor fat-tire e-bike, the S8 is a different experience. The old one was lighter, easier to carry upstairs, and pedaled more naturally with the adjustable seat. But it struggled on hills, skittered on gravel, and felt nervous above 20 miles per hour. The S8 is heavier and less nimble in tight spots, but it climbs with authority, tracks confidently on loose stuff, and feels rock solid at speed. I don't miss the old bike's cadence-only assist, because the S8's throttle and AWD do exactly what I wanted when I wanted it. Against higher-priced e-mopeds I've tried, the S8 gives you the guts without the frills. You don't get phone apps, alarms, or super fancy integration. What you do get is power, range, full suspension, hydraulic brakes, and lights that make night rides feel normal. If you're chasing premium fit and finish and brand extras, you'll probably look elsewhere. If your priority is how it rides and stops, this is strong value. For me, the worth it part is simple. I get to the top of hills faster, I'm less beat up after rough roads, and I'm not thinking about potholes every second. It's big and heavy, so I wouldn't buy it if I lived in a fifth floor walk-up. But as a daily runabout, a weekend dirt path explorer, and a comfy 2-up cruiser for short trips, it's been reliable and a lot of fun. The power makes me grin, the brakes make me relax, and the suspension makes the ride less punishing. That combination is what matters in real use. If you've got questions I didn't cover, or you want me to test something specific, drop it in the comments and I'll try it on my next ride. If this video helped, hit subscribe so you don't miss the next one, and let me know what you're riding.